Big ol' Fred Dukes, Doombots, it's time to talk about the Blob. Also, one of my favorite character models in this game, and my hopes that one day we'll get playable MODOK, because if you cut off his head, you got MODOK. That's basically MODOK's face. But enough about MODOK, let's talk about the Blob. So, the Blob, Fred Dukes, showed up way early in X-Men. I'm talking about before, not the Uncanny X-Men, not the Astonishing X-Men. Well, then, X-Men issue number 3, January 1964. He was one of the bad guys. They're like, what if we just made a really fat dude? Go. Right? And that was it. That was their entire thought process. Let him fight a fat dude. So that was it. I think it's been renamed now, so I'll put a link in the description below, but I think it's called Uncanny X-Men now, like they've retconned it. Back then, it wasn't. Uncanny was a separate thing. They've retroactively changed it. Doesn't matter. So all you need to know about the Blob is his power is that he's a big dude. Right? That's it. Just nothing else to say about him. He really didn't have much of a backstory. They've been giving him one as time has moved on. His power is related to his mass, strength, and indestructibility of his, quite honestly, obese figure. It's quite known. He knows he's obese. I think that one of the movies was like, "Don't call me fat." That he doesn't care. Like, that's his thing. He basically has insane powers of durability and strength based on his math or mass. Yep, no speech impediment there. On his mass. So he's as strong as somebody who's that big would be, because he can lift his own body weight. He doesn't actually feel the weight of his body weight. Part of his mutation, it's just him. He can easily, like Cyclops can't hurt himself with his eye beams. He doesn't feel like he's carrying around 800 or 900 pounds of weight as he's walking around. To him, he just feels like a normal person walking. Normal seems bad. It sounds like fat phobic. An average, I think, might be better. An average weight person might feel. It doesn't feel any difference. He's not like, he doesn't have blood pressure problems or anything like that. But again, he's a mutant, so these things are weird. He's pain immunity. His nerve endings actually can't reach his brain. So if you punch him really hard or stab him, his nerves can't actually send the impulses, which is kind of cool, but also absolutely terrifying for the situations where he needs to see a doctor. His body, he has complete control over it. So if you were to punch him, he can tighten his, I say, skin around whatever punched him and grab onto you. He can also use his body to hide things, almost like absorption, except they don't ever go inside his body. His body just kind of moves around them. He can completely deflect almost any projectile, especially if it doesn't explode, because it just bounces off of him like rubber. And he can do something called mass shifting. Basically, he can move his weight to any part of his body. He could take his stomach weight and move them to his hands, and by that, absolutely destroy you. Later on, he gained a secondary mutation, as most mutants do. He can stretch by moving his skin from parts of his body to other parts of his body in the same way. So, stupid, yes, but he can do it. He's actually formerly trained he really is trained as a boxer. So he can fight people and move with the same speed as somebody who weighs 850 pounds less than him. And considering that, it's kind of crazy because for his size, he has way higher speed or agility and stamina than anybody else at that size would ever have. He can basically travel as if he was I don't want to say Olympic athlete, but like, he could play a pickup game or two of basketball in the streets. His weakness is energy attacks. That's pretty much everything. He really doesn't have anything else. He's just a big dude, big strong boy. So let's talk about him in the game. Villain, global, mutant. The other two don't. Man, protector, I guess, kind of matters. So villain, duh. Global, that I argue with. Generally speaking, the mutants aren't really global. Like, the X-Men are, but like, most of the mutant bad guys just run around New York City or San Diego and cause problems. So I don't know of many times that like the Blob showed up in like Peru. Like it just doesn't happen, but like I get it. Just give him the tag, see what happens. Is mutant, no big deal. Protector, that is an acceptable setup for him, but I kind of feel like it's a cop-out. The Blob is a brawler. Like he will jump around and mess you up, and even all of his moves, belly flop, meat shield, heavy-handed, they're physical combat fights. He's less of a protector than anybody else. I don't know why they'd say like taunt and stuff. I get it. I get why they made him a protector, but he's not really a protector. Just like the Juggernaut's not really a protector. He's a smasher. He smashes. But so be it. As far as these are concerned, a lot of people are going to want to put like Fortifier / Healer on him because he is the protector class. Trust me, you don't need to. He is tanky as it is. And the amount of times he's spending taking the hits between him and the Juggernaut on the full team, incredibly relevant. Outside of that team, even less so is this necessary, so I wouldn't, but if you're noticing he's going down quick, that's fine. Skirmisher, not that big of a deal, but Raider, so there is actually an argument for Skirmisher. He does counterattack a lot, kind of like Bishop, so if you have him on Skirmisher, every time he counterattacks somebody, they're going to have a mark on him. Totally a reasonable, acceptable thing, but not as good as some of the other options. Depends on how you use the teams or how you use him. Raider, reasonable. Also, a lot of his attacks hit multiple people. Actually, his special and his ultimate both do. So getting that extra damage in is pretty good. I happen to like Striker just because the flat rate damage bonus he gets is pretty reasonable. He has a pretty decently high attack stat, and getting extra bonus attacks in, you know, from hitting somebody that's vulnerable can be relevant. He actually does do a lot of damage as well as provide tankiness, so very much like the Juggernaut in that effect on the Brotherhood, but you can see his stats pretty reasonable at his power level and for his investment. His damage goes up pretty reasonably. Armor is a dead stat, no one cares about it. Resistance, bigger on his team than otherwise, and then focus, not as relevant as a lot of people want it to be. So you got a lot of options with him. As for tier 4s, resistance going up in combat, as well as 10% chance for each Brotherhood. Now, the counterattack, this goes to a full 100% with the tier 4. That's what I was talking about before. That's what Skirmish comes up. But if you don't have that tier 4 in, it's not as reasonable, and I've never found a need to do it because the resistance. If this was damage or health all day, every day, because it's resistance, because the Brotherhood, what do we have to worry about? You know, nothing. Not a big deal for that team. Good, not great. Belly flop, big dumb damage. That's it. Just big dumb damage. Meat shield, big dumb damage, but also copy all positive effects from Brotherhood allies to this character, which means copy all positive effects from Juggernaut, which means make this guy a monster. So he'll often get like offense up and regen and, you know, a couple deflex, maybe some heals. Pretty reasonable ability, but then this hits one guy, it's you know, slams the ground. One guy gets hit for a lot, everybody else gets hit for a little bit. You can tier forward if you want. Wasn't really much for me. And then, of course, heavy-handed. Attack primary target for a lot of basic damage. This is a big number for a basic guy, especially for like a background guy. And apply slow. If the target is disrupted, reduce the target speed bar by 15%. There are 2 characters that disrupt in this game, and this does apply on his assists / counterattack. So if you're throwing out disrupteds a lot, be Magneto special or one of Toad's abilities, you could probably, or, you know, Pyro's ultimate. There's a lot of disrupts going on in this team. You can end up doing a little bit of turn reduction. Tier 4ing this makes the turn reduction even more, but because it's so situational as to whether or not, 1, it would turn reduce, and 2, you're choosing the target that it would turn reduce intentionally, who cares? It's not really worth it for me. Giving him a rating, though, Blob's actually a really cool character. The earlier in the game you get him, he scales low. He's got a very low ceiling. What that means is, at the early stages of the game, you know, level 50, 60, even some degree level 70, most of the characters, and I mean most of the characters, like 60 to 70% of the characters in this game, don't really output the damage that he's willing to take at those levels. It's once you get higher levels that the Blob starts kind of falling off. Your investment in him goes down. But early game, especially if you're like less than 3 months played, the Blob could be an amazing non-spender option for like arena defense, just because people have to beat him down. And I'm not even talking about Blob and Toad, just him on his own. He's a big, strong boy. He can taunt. He can do a lot of work. So, as a character, he's high B, right? He falls off dramatically, even though his team's pretty good. He's fun. You're never gonna really regret having him, but you might regret putting a couple orange circles around him, if you follow my meaning. At least right now, anyway. So use him if you need to, but don't feel like he's gonna carry you late into the end game. There are way better options, way cheaper options, and way less costly, and I mean that in time and effort, characters to get than the Blob, because he's a, store character, that will be better for you in the long run. The good news is he helps you unlock Magneto. So, useful character, viable character, not an amazing character, but you got him, use him. Anyway, that's it for the Blob. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Comment below, let me know how you're enjoying these videos anyway. Have a good night, have a great day. I've been Tony Scungili, but this time I'll catch you later before the outro.